Welcome to the Face Zone. Each of us sees through a different lens. The same artwork can be a masterpiece or mud, depending on the museum goer. A referee's call is often disputed by the other team. Where 17th century military engineers envisioned coiled metal as a way to dislodge bullets, vintners saw a corkscrew. Such disparate applications, war and winemaking. 7 billion points of view, and growing. The Face Zone is my point of view. A creative space where I reflect on inner and outer worlds. A place where I imagine, draw, and write about it. The resulting pieces could be flashes from fantastical narratives for which you must construct the plot. They could be metaphors, could be puzzles, jokes, commentaries, commands, questions, visions. What connects them is that they all begin with some kind of captioned face to prompt reaction and thought. Now, as much as the material is a window into my worldview, it's also a mirror reflecting yours. As your particular combination of experiences, values, and beliefs influences the meaning that you take away. Though some of our associations may overlap, they don't have to. The point is to set mind in motion. Toward what and to what end is for you to decide, but enjoy the sights along the way. Surreal daydreams to trip your imagination. February 2004, Hong Kong. I was hiking Lantau Island when the trail unexpectedly brought me to a beach. No other people, not a footprint. No boats on the water, or any other man-made structures in sight. The Pacific like a still, breezeless lake under the overcast sky. A scene of sublime inactivity. Seeing now that this was my destination, I took off my backpack, used a rock to dig a butt-sized hollow in the sand, planted mine in there, and reclined against the pack. For an hour I didn't move, just my eyes panning the ocean, reading the horizon like the most important poem ever written. Well, there was only one return bus to town and not much time. So I sat up, brushed off, and continued along eons sooner than I wanted. I've gone back many times in my imagination, though. That boundless refuge, where no distance is too far, our passport is always valid. And touchdown is just a thought away. During the hard times especially, our mind's eye sees us through. When the windows of the world let in the harsh light of workplace anguish, imploded love, or a fatal diagnosis, we can pull down our eyelid shades and take respite in whatever setting we conjure. For me, it's that incidental shore at Lo Kei Wan. For you? We can't ignore reality either. The longer you spend inside, the more forced the outside world amasses against you. Bills pile. Disappointment turns to depression, and the tumor doubles in size. You've got to take care of life before it takes care of you. In doing so, you enable the next beautiful moment to retreat to when ugliness returns. The less accessible a thing, the greater our desire. We're cats, incessantly scratching at a closed door while ignoring the open one next to it, obsessing over what we can't have. Those late-night munchies intensify once you see that the takeout place is closed and dark for the evening. Husbands yearn for the woman next door as their wives lie close. Compare the panicked sprint to find a job with the dreadful slow walk toward the time clock. Then you slump at your workstation, lamenting all you could get done if only you were at home. But come your day off, you'll procrastinate that to-do list like a root canal. The largest economy in the world is a carrot on a stick. The American dream is a long con of unfulfilled appetite, where every ad campaign presents a hole and sells the filler. How many companies would collapse if we recognized that fulfillment comes from within? The shortest distance of all. We reach for faraway wants, leaning ever farther away from our innermost needs. Eating is as intimate as it gets. The ingesting of organic material through the middle of your face, down into your deep physical core to become temporarily one with the consumed mass. It's even more penetrating than intercourse. Food is so personal that we judge others by their meal choices. Order something gross on a first date, and it could be your last. The fifth grader with the strangest brown bag lunch gets picked on most in the cafeteria. Americans find Southeast Asians offensive for eating dog, even though we eat large dogs called cows, which makes us seem ignorant to Hindus. Shrimp greatly upset me because of their pinkish orange fingernail-like shells and poop veins. So when I lived in Shanghai, it probably took a month off my life to catch a glimpse of my Chinese office mate aggressively stuffing entire prawns into her mouth until the ends of their shockingly long antenna disappeared into her satisfied expression. In the process of devouring them, she became prawn-like. And I'm sure she'd feel the same about the scrapple I chowed down as a Pennsylvania native. Seeing an animal feed can bring on the same revulsion. The sickest thing about opening a trash can swarming with bugs isn't necessarily the insects themselves, but that they think it's delicious in there. In the moment, that itself justifies the swatting. If you are what you eat, then those flies are rot-filled maggots, unwelcome in our space. One person's haggis is another's honey. Taste is pure subjectivity. Whatever a mangoon is, it's out there somewhere. It's awful, and it's hot, sexy dinner for some ravenous mouth that can't get enough. Racism is intellectually clumsy and depends upon an unbalanced worldview. The only way to deem an entire people inferior is to be willfully unaware of their accomplishments. Like viewing the Grand Canyon through a paper towel roll. Tribalism is natural. But diversity is no more unnatural than the combustion engines and computer networks that compel us to mix. And since the world has gotten too small to segregate, we either learn to move forward in step or we trip fatally over one another, tilling the soil for our replacement.
Amen.
Everything is surreal at first. Drive a baby under the track lighting of a freeway tunnel with the sunroof open and watch his face transform as if seeing God. 40 years later, he'll do a dead-eyed daily commute along that same stretch, unmoved as a Pac-Man frog, because each experience has a perceptual contour of spike and decay. Otherwise, honeymoons would last forever. The first hit wouldn't be free, and the latest fashion would still be Cro-Magnon chic. We thrive on the right kinds of change. Discovering punk rock in high school was a glorious exploding gift from an alternate dimension after years of enduring the pedestrian sedation of top 40. These days, my favorite reality shifts occur through travel, where a foreign landscape becomes home over time, and home feels foreign upon returning. Then reality reestablishes itself, and I begin planning my next departure. Long before our body collapses, our soul withers when starved of novelty. The agony of solitary confinement hinges on indefinite sameness. But the unincarcerated also cage themselves by uncritically settling into mind-numbing routines, slow boiling in the gradual cook of their rerun days until retirement hits with scarce time and energy for a spiritual recovery. Now is the time for new, for getting a better job, or taking a different way home at least, for catching a buzz or trying sobriety. Time to paint with the other hand, to be on the bottom or in front during the act. Time for a strange conversation with an unusual stranger. Today is the day to act on curiosity and inject some life into our lives. I grew my first chin beard in 10th grade. Not the broom it is today, a half inch at most, but enough to change the game. Less emasculating sarcasm from peers, more attention from girls, feeling closer to adulthood than childhood, seeing that manly little outgrowth in the side view mirror as I cruised along with a newly acquired driver's license. Well, the hair and its effect have been growing ever since. On a 3-week road trip from Philly to LA, my friends and I ended up along the same route as 50,000 hogs headed for the 60th annual Sturgis Motorcycle Rally in South Dakota. Everywhere we went, it was bikes, beer, and badasses. On the outside, well, from the neck up at least, I blended in and earned us a little cred in a subculture not known for its warmth. On the inside, I'm too anxious to ride a 10-speed through town. Some years later, I was in the Uyghur city of Kashgar, where the Muslim men greeted my uncut bushiness with nods of approval, perhaps thinking that I was with Allah, when in fact I'm spiritual, but not religious, as my online dating profile would say. After that, I took a teaching job at an urban Maryland high school, in which being a goat-like caricature of myself fast-tracked classroom rapport and greatly increased the number of completed homework assignments. Impressive how a tuft of facial pubes can alter so many outcomes. How differently might events have unfolded had I shaved? Which triggered conversations and resulting relationships would never have occurred? Which ones would have in their place? Maybe I get carjacked or miss meeting the love of my life in the beardless version. If nothing else, against my bald-headedness, it keeps me from looking like a crazed volleyball. Some are born to be hot, lusting after beaches, saunas, hot springs, jacuzzis, carnally drawn to searing engulfment. I have an extraordinary aversion to high temperature. While everyone else prepares for their Florida retirement, I daydream of pounding slushies in Alaska. I'm so white I'm almost blue. So UV rays scorch me like flame on marshmallow. Walking on an August afternoon, I can actually feel my cells being murdered. If there's even a leaf's worth of shade, I'll park my little toe there. And indoors, I require cryogenic levels of air conditioning. I wish the future were colder. But global warming is as established a fact as the solar system, and it would take a geek with more degrees than the sun to reverse it. I'm grateful I won't be around for smothering pollen counts, charcoaled California, sunken Venice, total blackouts, and water wars. What can I say? I like my Arctic with a shelf. Despite our blistering fate, it is worthwhile to slow down the burn. If we at least delay the inevitable through science and sacrifice, we could eke out another generation or two who would greatly appreciate it, and buy our species a little time to figure a way off the planet. Really, doing nothing is tantamount to blasting a fart in a packed elevator as you're leaving. And that is some karmic heat I don't want to take. One of our most salient human characteristics is our capacity for storytelling. Stories entertain, move, and shape us. They document, explain, and instruct. Some narratives are so powerful, so thoroughly internalized by a population, they have a greater impact than bombs. Certainly, many weapons have been discharged in defense of one coveted tale over another. But as much sway as stories hold over us, they're an arbitrary force we manufacture. Accounts become so old and well-known, we forget they could have followed a different plot line. Imagine if we had access to rough drafts. What if Medusa had a scalp of golden roses and transformed people into pure chi? What if Robert Frost had taken the highway? How about a female Christ? In an alternate version, we may just as easily have spent a childhood leaving quarters under our pillows for the Scab Fairy. A revised manuscript may well alter the course of an entire culture. You can't crop a giraffe. You can't make a cat follow the rules. Can't make a kazoo subtle. And plaid always takes over the outfit. Weeds will continue to sprout wherever, as sand won't stay on the beach, as water finds its way out of any vessel. Every rumor spreads like fire, like they'll never censor every curse word. You can't force art inside the lines. You can't keep a viral trend from its time. Nothing restrains true love or righteous revolution. And yet all poems must come to an end. Our lives are a choreography through the abrasion of time. We maneuver about the stage of existence, each experience adding to our spiritual core while simultaneously eroding its container. Just as a pencil shortens with every expressive stroke, a ballerina grinds herself down a little more to stick the next inspiring landing. A marathoner crosses the finish line with a smaller body and a bigger soul. The same goes for rock climbing, mosh pits, work, love, any act at all. The most significant choice we make each day is how to use ourselves up, on what to spend our fleeting life force. Fully living means dancing toward death, with purpose, passion, and style to stick that ultimate landing. Thanks a lot.